Hey friend, Michelle Dennis Evans here. Welcome to Created to Write, where we turn blank pages into finished work. You'll be encouraged, inspired, and learn practical strategies to move forward with your writing, whether you're just starting out or ready to level up your craft. And if you're looking for ways to support your creative work with an additional income stream, I'd love to chat with you. Please reach out on social, Michelle Dennis Evans on most places. Now for today's episode. Today I have with me Lynne Stringer. Welcome, Lynne.
Hello.
Would you like to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. I have been a writer all my life. Since I was very young, I started writing different things. When I was about 8, I wrote a little book and wrote it in felt tip and stapled it together. And that was my first foray into writing. Of course, now I do it a bit more seriously, and I've been a published author for 12 years now. So that's been really good. I write mainly science fiction for a young adult audience, and although I'm a Christian, I write more in the secular mainstream field than Christian books. So that's just a bit about me.
Cool. So what are you working on then at the moment?
I'm working on, I had this book, Keeper of the Archives. This is my latest full-length novel out. It was released last year. And at the moment, I'm working on a kind of prequel. It's more of an origin story, really, for one of the characters in this book. And so I finally, after many months, the longest it's ever taken me to write a first draft, it took me about 5, 6 months to write the first draft. I finally got it down, and I've just started editing it a little, just to see how I was going. I didn't wait as long as I really should have before looking at it, but there were some things I knew I'd changed that I had to adapt, and I wanted to do that while it was fresh in my mind. So yeah, just working on that one at the moment.
Okay, so you'll draft something, then you let it sit for a while. How long do you like to let things?
Usually I try and let it sit for 4 weeks because that's a good way to come back to it fresh. I made it about a week this time before I started to fiddle. But like I said, that's because I knew some things had altered that I was going to have to change in the beginning. So I thought, okay, just go through it now and deal with those things and then leave it a bit longer after that.
Yeah, right. I see, I see. So saying that you write generally for the general market, not the Christian market, do you
Mm.
feel bound or boxed?
Not really. Probably about the only thing I do is being aware as a Christian that that it's known that I'm a Christian. It's difficult because some people will, if you know I'm a Christian, you'll say, "Oh, she should be fitting into this box," but I'm not. And then if you find it, they like my books and they find out I'm a Christian, they may not be that keen on it. Are they possibly some people may worry that I'm going to suddenly try and
Do an altar call.
proselytize them. Yeah,
Big
exactly.
book.
And I don't want them to stop reading because they're worried I'll suddenly preach. So
Mm,
that's not what I feel, at least to this point, not what I feel God's called me to do with my books. So
yeah.
so that's not something
Yeah,
I've
the books, I
do.
haven't read all of them, but your books are still very wholesome and from a perspective of a Christian worldview as such without
Yes,
preaching.
that's
Yeah.
correct. Yes, they
Yeah.
are about that. Mhm.
There's no ickiness in your books. I like them.
Well, I don't know if you'd say no ickiness. It probably depends on your description of icky.
What's icky?
So, for example, in this one, I've got it has a little touch of Frankenstein in it. So if there's someone who chops body parts off people and gives them to other people,
That's icky.
I think that's pretty ick.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact,
Do I want to read
someone
it now?
well, it's not hugely graphic in terms of how it shows that. So it's not too bad, although I have had a friend who read it in her review. She says it's a touch of the macabre. So think that's an accurate assessment.
Yeah. And so being a Christian, your personal influence on your writing, what's that look like? Your journey as yeah.
It's more like try and always be aware that I want my characters, the protagonists, the main characters whose journey you go on. They don't always have to be necessarily nice. They're certainly not wholesome necessarily, but they should be striving towards a lighter side. And their journey hopefully takes them somewhere where they get to sort of the light if they weren't there in the beginning.
Mm.
Like the one in this one, Eden, she comes from a dark family life. Her father's an alcoholic. The city she lives in, which was rebuilt after a global catastrophe, that's very segregated. So she's in the poor sector and she's trying to support her family, but she struggles awfully with the idea of that element of her. And I mean, she wants to help her family absolutely, and her two brothers and her sister, but she does get the opportunity at one stage to go elsewhere, to move into a different accommodation, and she takes it but is racked with guilt because she's leaving her family behind. But part of the reason she moves is because she gets a job, which means she can support them. But it's difficult for her to then go back because she's aware that's where her father is, or sometimes is, and she just doesn't want to deal with him. So she has this tension of not wanting to deal with things. And too, that happens in the course of the story too, where she's required to help people in the course of it. And she would rather just hide and not have to be involved in things because she finds it too confronting to do that. So that's a challenge she has to face in the
Mhm.
story.
Mhm. I see. I see. Um, so is that reflective of your personal journey in any way, or taken from experience of other people that you see, or?
I think there's certainly Eden, interestingly enough, she has probably the least of me in her. But in that element, it I do have similarities. Of course, being an introvert, sometimes I would prefer just to sneak around so nobody can see me, and just not necessarily to be that social because it's sometimes confronting. So I guess in that sense, that's something she's inherited from me in that element. I think all my main characters have an element of me somewhere, although sometimes they're difficult to find. So
Only you know. Is that what you're saying?
yes, yeah. So sometimes it's hard to find exactly which element of me has ended up in this person.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. And have you ever felt judged for what you write?
Yes, yes. I'm trying to, it may be something I've put more on myself though, because if I go to a conference with Christian writers, they'll be all talking about how, they're writing specifically Christian and how they're hoping that it has a gospel outreach and it has a message. And honestly, I write because I just like stories. And and I do want to provide something for a young adult audience that doesn't have a lot of access on darkness and doesn't have some of the things like my books are romances, but they're not smutty or graphic or anything like that, which a lot of YA books are these days. And so I try and concentrate on that, but I do sometimes feel like gosh, am I really using my writing for God? It doesn't feel like that. But I can't really distinguish whether that's pressure I've put on myself or if it has come from outside. Sometimes I think it's just when you're around a lot of other authors who are Christians and you hear the way they talk about their books, that's just the feeling I come away with. But I don't know if it's been being generated from anyone else or if it's just me.
Perhaps that's just something for you and God to work out together.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind he has called me to do this and to write what I'm writing. That's absolutely the case. Because I did try and write a Christian manuscript once, and nobody wanted it.
Yeah.
And this book of mine, which is to this point my only contemporary book,
Mm,
it's the most Christian thing I've written. It's also the least popular. So,
mm.
so it's like, okay, maybe that was just a sign from God. Said, no, 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 you don't do that. That's not what I want you to do. So I'm trying to do what I'm told.
Yes, obedience is a good thing.
It is. It is. It's usually a necessary thing, and you can't get away with not being obedient for too long.
Yeah, and I understand what you mean by walking away from those conferences, sometimes feeling that,
Mm,
because mine are very much on the edge of nowhere. They're not my books, they're not for the general public and they're not for the Christian, apparently. They're
mm,
somewhere in between. And when I try and write one way or the other, it just doesn't work. This is where God's got me writing, and so that's where I sit.
mm. Yeah, it's a hard place to sit. It's a real balancing act, and I
Mm,
think oftentimes we're the harshest critics of people in that position because and I think that comes back a lot of ways to imposter syndrome too, because every author I know has imposter syndrome. We all think, oh, I'm just not good. Maybe I shouldn't even be doing this at all. Is it just a waste of time? Nobody really likes my books. Nobody buys my books. How do I get people to see me? And do they really want to? Maybe it's better if they don't. So it's hard to overcome that kind of negativity that tends to leach over, I think, in every creative's life.
Yeah, you're so right. Every second guessing ourselves all the time. Well,
Absolutely.
I don't know anyone who doesn't in the
No,
creative.
no, especially creatives. They're the ones I hear it from the most regularly.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you say your greatest challenge is?
Probably trusting that I'm doing the right thing.
Mm,
Trusting that if God wants me to do something else, he'll tell me. I
mhm.
do regularly ask, and at this stage, he's still saying, "Nope, nope, this is where I want you."
Mhm.
So, so it's difficult sometimes, like you said, to sit there, but I do believe that it is where I want, where he wants me to be. It also, it does, I do struggle with most because I hear a lot of authors say, "I've got so many ideas, and my biggest struggle is which one to write next." And I'm going, I've usually only got one idea at a time, and sometimes it's extremely hard to even find one. Like the one I've just finished that I'm editing at the moment, it was so hard to get that out, and I didn't. Although, admittedly, Keeper of the Archives, at least the one I'm writing at the moment, I knew where it was ending. This one, when I started writing it, I'm going, no idea where it's going. Not the faintest idea. And it was scary because every other book I've at least known where I was going to. This one, it was just like, okay, I'm hoping for the best. And it worked out okay, apparently. So that's good.
Do you generally plot or are you a pantser?
I'm a pantser.
Mm,
I plot in my head a bit, and like I said, usually I know where I'm ending up,
yeah.
but the rest of the journey is is very fraught with many different things. Like I'll tell you another story. This one here, this is the omnibus. So this was originally three books, three separate books, and the final book in the series, The Rain, it was the one I had. Well, half of the first half I knew so well because that was basically where the entire trilogy was heading. But the second half of it, I only wrote when I suddenly went, gosh, this book's too short. It needs to be longer. So when I remember many times writing that where I sat at the keyboard saying, not, I think I know where they're going, not the faintest clue how they're going to get there. And suddenly I'd put my hands on the keyboard and say, oh, okay, that's what's happening. And off they'd go. So the characters often tell me what their day's been like, and that's where I get my stories from.
I get that completely. The characters tell me what's going on too.
Yeah, we just write the accident report. That's all.
Oh, it's so much fun, except the mess I end up with when I write like that.
Well, that's if you're a pantser, because it doesn't really matter, because I'm an editor as well. So it doesn't matter if you're a pantser or a plotter, but if you are a pantser, you do have to be a strict editor, self-editor, and say, okay, I need to make sure this story works, because
Mm,
I know I will have deviated and meandered. That's what I'm doing with my manuscript at the moment that I'm working on. I know the way I started was not consistent with the way I ended up. So I've got to make sure I plug all those holes and just make sure everything works.
yeah, it's a challenge.
It is.
So do you have any parting words for people who are wanting to write or just starting out?
Get a good professional editor. That honestly, I see a lot of people. I've worked for both traditional publishers and self-publishing companies before. I do private editing as well. And probably the biggest problem I see with people who are trying to write or want their book out there is that they're going too fast. Um, it is a lot harder than it looks. And if you don't enjoy the writing of the manuscript, that's the best part. So if you've struggled to do that, seriously consider whether maybe this is not what you're supposed to be doing or not the best use of your creativity, because that's the part you should enjoy. It only gets harder from there. You then have to edit it yourself and make sure it works. Then you need to get someone else to edit it, and they're going to send you back a file with a whole heap of marks on it, and also probably a report that says this doesn't work, that doesn't work, and you've got to be able to handle that, because then if you do get it out there in the public, people are going to say, a lot more harsh things in their reviews than the editor does. So you need to be prepared for that. Then you've got to find out if you're going to go traditional publishing or self-publishing. Got to decide on covers, got to decide on a bunch of things. Then the hard part is trying to sell the book.
Marketing.
Exactly. No, it is so difficult and roadblocks are everywhere. So definitely, if you don't enjoy the writing part, it may not be the best thing for you to do. But if you do enjoy that and you just want people to hear your stories, then stick it out and just seek other writers out to see how they've done things, see if you can get advice or good references for people like editors, cover designers, or whatever you need. That would be the best way forward.
Excellent advice. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining me today.
No problem.
And I would just like to remind everyone you were created to create. Please hit the like button, subscribe, leave us a comment, ask us a question. We'd love to answer it for you. And we will see you again soon. Thanks for hanging around till the end. Please remember to leave a review if you've enjoyed this podcast and share it with a friend. You never know who is wanting to get those words out of their head and into a book.